right, so we're back, and this time we're taking another deep dive into Dante's Inferno. Last time we were talking about Canto 5.
That's right, yeah.
With all that passion and those doomed lovers, Paolo and Francesca.
It was pretty intense.
It was. And get ready for things to take a bit of a turn because, well, Canto 6. It's a whole different kind of heavy.
Oh, I see.
It starts with Dante coming back to his senses, after fainting at the end of the last canto.
Mm-hmm.
And he's immediately hit with the full force of where he is now. He even describes it right at the beginning. My sense reviving, that erewhile had drooped with pity for the kindred shades, whence grief o'ercame me wholly, straight around I see new torments, new tormented souls.
It's a pretty powerful shift in tone, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's like, it's like if you suddenly went from, I don't know, Hereford Garden to like a garbage dump.
I get it.
But that's what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, it's certainly not the same atmosphere as the second circle.
Not at all, no. So tell me what exactly is going on in this third circle.
Well, this is where we meet the gluttons.
Gluttons.
Yes. And Dante really wants us to feel how awful it is there.
How does he do that?
He describes this landscape, just covered in filth. And there's this constant rain. It's like icy rain, hail, even discolored snow.
Ugh, that sounds terrible.
Oh, it gets worse. Imagine like being constantly bombarded with icy sewage.
Oh, yuck. That's pretty vivid.
That's Dante for you. He wants us to understand the consequences of, living a life of excess.
Right, so it's not just about, like, overeating.
No, it's a deeper kind of gluttony, this insatiable hunger, a desire for more than what's necessary.
So he's using this really specific imagery to make a point about, like, human nature. I mean, it's a pretty effective way to get the message across, I'll give him that.
It really is. And, it makes you think about how this idea of gluttony still applies today. We live in a world of constant temptation. Buy this, eat that, experience more.
Yeah, that's true.
It's almost like we're surrounded by our own versions of this sewage rain, metaphorically speaking, of course.
Right. But before I get too existential about my online shopping habits, who's in charge of this whole gluttony situation?
Well, guarding this circle is none other than Cerberus.
Cerberus, as in the three-headed dog from Greek mythology.
The one and only. And Dante doesn't hold back on the details. He describes him as this monstrous beast with fangs and claws.
Oh, great.
Always hungry, barking and tearing at the souls as they suffer in the muck.
Ugh, delightful.
It's quite a picture.
Okay, but wait, 3 heads. I know Dante loves his symbolism, so what's the deal with that?
Well, each head could be seen as representing a different aspect of gluttony. One head might be the constant gnawing hunger. Another could be the inability to ever feel satisfied. And the third, maybe that represents the destructive nature of consuming without any thought or restraint.
Wow. That's it's actually a pretty clever way to think about it.
It is, isn't it?
But, Dante wouldn't be Dante if he didn't throw in a few familiar faces into the mix. So who does he run into in this circle of, gluttonous despair?
Well, this is where he encounters Ciacco, the fellow Florentine.
Ciacco. That name rings a bell. But remind me who he was again.
Well, you could think of him as a kind of socialite, known for his love of good food, good company, and, good gossip.
Oh, right. But he's in hell now.
He is, yes. But even there, he can't seem to shake his obsession with earthly affairs.
You're kidding.
Nope. He's particularly interested in the political dramas happening back in Florence.
Really? I mean, I know Dante had his own issues with Florentine politics.
This encounter with Ciacco, it gives Dante a chance to, subtly critique the political situation in his city.
Oh, interesting. So, he's using Ciacco to make a point about corruption and instability.
Exactly. And through Ciacco's words, he even foreshadows some of the conflicts that will, eventually tear Florence apart.
Wow. So even in hell, they're still worried about politics. That's, it's both depressing and kind of funny. So we've got Dante dodging sewage rain, trying to avoid a 3-headed monster dog, and catching up on Florentine gossip with a condemned soul.
It's certainly been an eventful canto so far.
It has, yeah. What could possibly come next?
Well, as they say, the plot thickens. As they keep going, deeper into the circle, Dante starts running into more and more people. A lot of them are Florentines he actually knew when he was alive.
Really?
It's actually kind of sad because their gluttony has changed them so much you can barely recognize them.
Wow, that's intense.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
About
identity, I guess. Like what really matters in the face of, well, eternity.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like, do all our accomplishments and stuff even mean anything in the end?
Exactly. It's like Dante saying that true judgment goes beyond like earthly fame or fortune.
So what does matter then?
The state of our souls, I think, the choices we make, the impact we have on others.
That's deep.
It is. And speaking of deep thoughts, Dante himself is going through a lot in this canto. He's obviously horrified by what he's seeing, right? But he also feels this deep pity for these souls, for their suffering.
Yeah, I can see how that would be tough. It's like you want to be just, but you also can't help but feel compassion.
Exactly. And that's something we all struggle with, I think, balancing justice and mercy.
It's a human thing for sure.
And, Dante's actually using this struggle, this internal conflict, to explore an even bigger question. It's a question that people have been wrestling with for centuries. How do we reconcile the idea of a just God with the reality of, well, all the suffering and evil in the world?
That's a big one, all right.
It is. And Dante isn't afraid to tackle it head on.
Good for him.
Yeah. And this leads to a really key moment in Canto 6.
Oh, what happens?
Well, Dante's been watching all this torment, right? Talking with Ciacco, and it's got him thinking. So he turns to Virgil, his guide, and he asks him a pretty profound question.
What's the question?
He wants to know if these punishments, the torments of hell, if they'll be worse after the last judgment, or maybe less intense, or will they stay the same?
He's really digging into the nature of hell itself now, huh?
He is. And Virgil's response is interesting, too. He doesn't just give him a simple answer.
What does he say?
He pushes Dante to think about perfection and how it relates to both joy and suffering. You see, in the afterlife, souls will exist in the state of perfect alignment with their choices in life. So those who led virtuous lives, they'll experience perfect joy. But those who chose the path of sin, well, their suffering will also be perfect and unchanging.
So it's not that the punishments themselves become stronger or weaker, but the souls become more fixed in their state.
Exactly. And that's a really important idea to understand in Dante's Inferno. Hell isn't just some random place of punishment. It's a realm where our choices have, well, eternal consequences.
I'm starting to see why this is considered such a masterpiece.
It really is. And as Dante takes all this in, they find themselves at the edge of, well, another circle of hell, another layer of torment to explore.
Of course they do.
Dante's journey never really stops, does it?
Where do they go next? What's waiting for them in this new circle?
Well, they come to this steep drop leading down to the fourth circle. And, you're not going to believe who's guarding it.
Who?
Plutus.
Plutus. Wait, like the god of wealth. I thought he was supposed to be about, like, abundance and good fortune.
Not in Dante's version. He's this grotesque figure, all bloated and swollen, almost bursting, with his own greed.
So he's like a symbol of, what, the corrupting power of wealth.
Exactly. And that brings us to the sin being punished in the fourth circle. Greed.
Greed, huh? Makes sense. Well, that was quite a journey through Canto 6.
It was. And it's just a small part of Dante's whole epic.
I know, right? I can't believe we're only on the fourth circle.
Still a long way to go.
Well, I, for one, am definitely ready to keep exploring.
There's always something new to discover in Dante's Inferno.
And until next time, keep diving.